I'm back. 200 episodes of Torn Apart. Why not 300? And a special episode, and a podcast. Yes, I will add a podcast, and I will create a special Instagram. Torn Apart everywhere. Patrick everywhere. Just Patrick's faces going on top of every single screen, on every single t-shirt, everywhere, forever, until we all die.
Just admit it was a shitty idea.
Having a grandson?
A vat of fake acid? Are you dying of dementia?
No! God, please, no!
Welcome back to Torn Apart, and today I'm making my very first Rick and Morty video, which is insane when you think about it. First of all, because if you're a nerd, you must love Rick and Morty. So you know that I love Rick and Morty. I have a t-shirt. This is probably one of the first times that I actually have a t-shirt which is themed with the same theme of my video.
Nice.
Insane, right? Rickception. We're getting inside the head of Rick, trying to figure out where the season is going, what's the future of Rick and Morty, and whether we actually want to know at the end of the day. To prepare this video, I rewatched season 5 because I honestly didn't remember a single thing about it.
Never got my job at the university back, remember that? Rick made me do karate. No, it was kind of funny, but I guess things went downhill from there.
I honestly still thought the season 5 was the one with the slot dragons, which isn't the case at all. That's season 4, which is the one with the toilet as well, with the very special toilet. Just to tell you how almost every single episode in season 5 wasn't really that memorable, and it's not even that it wasn't memorable, it's just that it was so incredibly complicated, to the point that if you had to stop someone in the street and be like, stop whatever you're doing, I'm gonna tell you about Rick and Morty and their story, it would be impossible to do it. Just because I feel like the series itself is always trying to create layers on top of layers on top of layers of storytelling, trying to explain character traits, trying to explain backstories, and constantly rewriting them or recontextualizing them in different ways, to the point that it's impossible to remember every single detail of Rick and Morty.
Christianity again? After cowboys? You went all the way back around? Oh God, why can't I die? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone!
That's why I had to take notes while I was rewatching season 5, and also while I was rewatching the 2 episodes that just came out, because there are so many things happening, so many different plot devices, so many different storytelling techniques that they use, that it's kind of like, it gives you a headache.
Rick, this is an obvious trap. We have to go.
It's always trying to one-up itself. Every single episode, every single season, it's trying to outsmart itself. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's really working. And that's probably why I feel like no one is talking about the release of season 6 right now, even though the second episode is already out. And it's probably because the hype has gone so down, because Rick and Morty keeps surprising us, but always in the same and exact ways. And it just doesn't work anymore.
Man, Rick, this commercial is kind of boring, you know? It's like the PlayStation 5 is pretty cool.
All right, we're done. Go play PS5. My
Funny enough, when I was researching it, I found out that they are actually defining the ending of season 5 as the end of a 2-part journey, meaning that we could get 5 more seasons of Rick and Morty, which is kind of insane. I remember a couple of years ago when I was so incredibly happy when they kept greenlighting one season after the next, because it really felt like it was one of the most exciting animated shows that I'd ever seen. Even though there are things like Adventure Time, even though now there is things like Arcane, there is a lot of diversity at the end of the day. Rick and Morty is not really an exception anymore, and that's probably why people are less excited about it, because Rick and Morty kind of feels cliche now, because Rick and Morty has created such a very specific formula of playing on nerd tropes, on playing on movie trope and video game trope, that at the end of the day we expect it to do everything that it does, and it ends up being predictable.
Let's eat it.
What? We can't eat it? It's a baby!
Morty, what if it makes us run faster or jump higher?
Okay, let's eat the baby.
And even even worse, I don't think that the main problem that Rick and Morty has right now, it's the fact that it's predictable. I feel like it's the fact that it has no stakes. I was looking, for example, at a couple of plot lines from the previous season here. It's really funny because maybe you don't notice it when you are looking episode 3 episode on a weekly basis. And actually, I'm pretty sure that if Rick and Morty was a binge watching show, people would probably forget about it really quickly, just because they would realize that it keeps rewriting itself, it keeps playing on the same note almost on a weekly basis. And even when it comes to the character development, in this season 6 here, as in season 5 and 4 and 3, 2, 1, it's always the same thing when it comes to the relationship between the family. Of course, there is character development and they are evolving, but everything that has been set up in the past seasons keeps being rewritten at some point so that Rick and Morty can keep going with their adventures, and it kind of really sucks. For me, for example, it was really obvious in season 5 when I stopped caring, and it happened exactly on episode 2, which is the one with the decoy families, which implies that basically so many different things that we saw could have been decoy families, and so many different adventures that we saw could have been also starring characters from decoy families. And it's really funny because Rick and Morty usually play with a kind of cosmic horror where the universe is so vast and we're such small creatures which don't have an absolute grasp on everything that is going on around us. We have no idea what's going on different galaxies, for example, and it plays on that kind of fear and uncertainty to 100, to the point that we don't know anything about anything, and it feels like Rick is the only person who actually knows what the fuck is going on, so we have to stick with him so that we can actually grasp some kind of meaning when it comes to each episode that is going on in this series here.
Oh my God! Oh Christ!
Yeah, true level, bitch.
Morty, come on, we're leaving for school.
Everything's crooked. Reality is poison. I want to go back. I hate this.
But the problem also is we are always left in this sense of not knowing anything, in this sense of nothing matters, so nihilism, that at the end of the day we end up not caring. And I feel like the episode of the decoy family was a really good example of why should I care if all of these people die if they're robots? And why should I care about the original family if at the end of the day you're just playing these jokes on jokes on jokes about decoy families and about clones and about people from different dimensions, and the idea that you can pick and swap them at any moment in time and it will still feel like our main characters.
I can't believe portal travel's broken.
I'll get to it when I get to it.
Lift with your knees, Mom.
How many times have you done this?
That is something that they really need to address with the future seasons. Actually, when I read an interview by Dan Harmon, he said that season 6 was going to be definitely better than season 5, mostly because it's going to be way more canonical. But at the end of the day, they've been promising this canonical stuff since the very beginning of Rick and Morty, because this is one of the main issues that it had since the very first seasons. And they've been saying, oh, don't worry, there will be more canon. We'll develop more linear storytelling that will make more sense so that people can actually engage with these characters in the long run. But they're always stuck in this kind of limbo of trying to do both at the same time, and it never actually works. It's really funny because at the very beginning of the 6th season, we've got Rick who is saying something funny, commenting on what happened in the season finale.
Guess that was all part of Evil Morty's plan.
Evil Morty, can we stop flattering this guy? His plan was to monologue and off. He basically threw a tantrum to announce he was quitting Twitter.
Nobody quits Twitter.
And basically it is revealed in this final episode that Evil Morty, since the very beginning, what he wanted to do is to detach himself as much as possible from Rick and to have an existence that is basically devoid of Rick so that he could have any kind of free will. And of course I stopped there and started thinking for a second whether it was actually true, and yes, it was true, because at the end of the day Evil Morty wasn't really fighting our characters, but he was on a completely different side quest that we didn't really care about or engage with, because at the end of the day he wanted to get away. He was actually a really interesting villain when you think about it, because his goals don't really overlap with the kind of cliche villain goals that we get to see almost all the time within popular culture, and that's why he was such an interesting character. But I feel that the way in which they intertwined the different plot lines, it just didn't work at all. For example, think about the fact that this final episode here starts starts with Rick and the two crows going on adventures, and him being betrayed by the two crows because they want to sleep with another person, and him going back to Morty, and everything goes back to normal basically, and then we slowly go in the evil Morty plot, even though it was not set up at all in the last few episodes, and it makes no sense at all.
They want you to say wubba lubba dub dub at the end, but screw that, right?
Yeah, we're not whores.
Just to tell you how last season was such a mix and match of so many different things, and it really felt like Rick was just shouting at us, oh look at this, this is happening now, oh my god, and this is happening now, and this was also happening while this was happening, and they tried to pretend like that's clever storytelling, but it's really not.
Whoa! Did you turn yourself into a Wendy's Frosty Chino? Are you like Frosty Rick now? Oh wow, Mom and Dad too? The whole family's food now, huh? You gonna make me into a food? Wait, what am I?
Poop! The other episode that really doesn't work, for example, and that shows these kind of side effects of being almost too meta, of being almost too nihilistic and relying too much on the cosmic horror that is so inherent to the series, is the one about Thanksgiving. And it's really funny because I tried to find like the sum up of the plot itself, because I couldn't even sum it up because of how complex it is and because of how many things get introduced every like 2 minutes basically in that episode there. Morty basically releases a giant robot from the Statue of Liberty after accidentally destroying the Constitution of the United States, which is hidden in a crypt, and Rick tries to obtain a turkey pardon from the president by disguising himself and Morty as turkeys, but the president, aware of Rick's schemes, turns himself and other military volunteers into turkeys to stop him. All the while, a turkey is accidentally infused with the president's DNA and takes his place as a human, and he starts turning a lot of different turkeys into humans as well. So the president, his forces, Rick and Morty, team up with alien and robots who live under the earth, and basically like the president reveals that in the beginning of time Earth was populated by big giant turkeys, and these alien and predator species are kind of like working against each other but also together to kill the turkeys, and they've been living under the crust of Earth for such a long time.
Oh my god, they're gonna fight. They're really gonna fight.
Aw, they love each other.
Never gets
I'll
old.
never get tired of that.
What else is in the crust of Earth? Aren't the horse people already like living underneath? You know what I mean? Like they keep establishing all of these different things that lay on top of each other, and at the end of the day don't make sense at all. In the Voltron episode, for example, which is one of the worst episodes of Rick and Morty that I've ever seen, mostly because it is a very straightforward copy of those kind of like Voltron animes, things where you get people creating robots. And the whole joke of that episode is just Rick that wants to create a bigger robot on top of a bigger robot on top of a bigger robot. And that's the entire episode. But that episode ends with the reveal that basically, since they're not creating Voltron robots and fighting alien creatures anymore, these alien creatures will just attack everywhere and eventually kill everyone. And this has been set up as something canonical, I suppose, I don't know. And then in the post-credit scene it is revealed that these weird bug aliens are actually being transported onto other worlds so that they can spread the cure to space AIDS. I mean, that was a funny callback to something that happened in season 1, for example, when it comes to space AIDS. But at the end of the day, do you see what I mean when it comes to establishing so many different things about our universe that it ends up being nonsensical?
Everybody in the car, now!
I'm Mr.
What the f, Dad? Why would you bring that thing into our house?
It was cute. We gotta find a new timeline now.
And with the end of the first episode of the 6th season, it is established that everyone that we know when it comes to the main characters has to leave their reality to go to another one, so that now every single person within the family is basically a variant and they don't belong to the world that they're in, which is a weird world where they don't say Parmesan cheese, they say Parmesan, which was a funny joke at the end of the day. But just to say that they've pushed once again the reset button when it comes to this universe here, and I have no idea which facts from the past I'm supposed to keep within the canon and which facts I'm supposed to delete, since we've gone to a different dimension, different parallel timeline. And this is a problem that Rick and Morty has and keeps recreating season after season after season, as it basically tells us that everything comes back and no one really dies.
You're fine leaving 8% of me to die?
It's not your finest 8%, Morty. And 8% 8% of anything is expendable. 8% of pizza is crust. 8% of the Snyder Cut was Batman dreaming.
If you look at Bird Person, for example, even though he's a really interesting character, they've been killing him off and resuscitating him in so many different ways. And in season 5, they do it once again, even though they do it in a really good episode where we get to explore his backstory with Rick. Don't you think that makes his death meaningless at the end of the day? In the same way that it makes his fight against Rick when he's reincarnated as robot Bird Person kind of meaningless? Because I kind of think so. At the end of the day, I feel like Rick and Morty has this problem that Community had as well, where it's always trying to outsmart itself, it's always trying to be novel, it's always trying to revolutionize almost the laws of storytelling and animation, that it kind of forgets that those rules are there for a reason, so that we can actually tell a coherent story from A to Z that works and that is memorable. When I think back to Rick and Morty, I can't really separate every single season one from the next. I can't really separate every single episode one from the next, because at the end of the day, there are so many different things that are being established and forgotten, so many things that are used just as jokes, but at the end of the day, you sit there being like, wait, they made that joke, but is it actually happening within the universe itself, or was it just for the purpose of a joke? So you know what I mean? So I'm really worried when Dan Harmon is saying that he wants to keep going with Rick and Morty as long as possible, because we saw that the quality when it comes to Community kept going down and down, the more that it got meta and the more that it just refused to be an actual story and refused to keep going with the characters in like a genuine way and not constantly pushing the reset buttons and every single season or every single 2 or 3 seasons. Even when it comes to the relationship that the family has created with Rick across the seasons, when you think back on it, it doesn't really make that much sense. It really felt like we were going towards a direction where the family was distancing themselves from Rick. But I'm pretty sure that the writers realized that if the family distances themselves from Rick, they will not have any adventures and then the show will end. So basically we were going through this character development thing where the family was starting to notice that Rick was a really toxic person within the family, within the show, and they wanted to get rid of him. And after a while, after a couple of seasons, we just forgot about that really important subplot, and now the family keeps hanging out together and going on crazy adventures, which put the world, the universe, the timeline and everything at stake, and no one is mad anymore and everything seems to be fine. And it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying because it really feels like all of that character development was for nothing and that we're just wasting our time.
I'll never do it! You'll never take me alive!
Oh, wait, Rick! Oh!
Run and get Wendy's breakfast before Wendy's breakfast gets you.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And I'm pretty sure that even the biggest Rick and Morty fans can see that it's not being fun just for being fun. It is actually trying to make something more canonical. It is trying to create some emotional resonance when it comes to our characters and how we feel towards them. If you think about the scene where, for example, Morty breaks up with Planetina from season 5, that moment was incredibly sad, and the moment when his mother doesn't know what to do, she doesn't know how to take the pain away from her son, that was an incredibly powerful emotional moment.
Morty, are you alright?
She's gone, Mom. She's gone. I loved her so much.
I know you did, honey. Mommy's here.
In the same way that the whole final act of the last episode of season 5 was incredibly powerful just because of the evil Morty theme that kept going and becoming more and more majestic. And it felt like a really emotional point for that character to see him get free from Rick, get free from all his machinations, get free from all the things about slavery and using Mortys as shields, but also using Mortys as energy, using Mortys to do this and to do that, but at the same time we forget about it when we don't feel like using that plot line. It's kind of weird. And of course they also established the idea that he wasn't just using Mort to hide himself from the Citadel of Ricks, but he actually decided to go to that specific Morty there because that was the original Rick who killed his family, and he wanted to wait it out out with that Rick's family in case one day he would come back and he would actually be able to kill him. All those things true at the same time, because I have no idea, and it's really confusing when you're trying to set everything up. And even Morty, it is really clear that he doesn't really know how to react, and at the end of the day he will just forget about it because there are so many things that have been revealed across the different seasons and we don't really know which is the truth, because Rick is like a pathological liar and he never changes and he kind of sucks at this point.
You promise I'm not, you know, bait to make that Rick come back?
What? Morty, for you to be bait, the guy'd have to value something. He truly does not give a shit. He's the real deal.
The whole idea of maybe setting up season 6 to go with the original Rick, the one that killed the family, that motivated the Rick that we know to start basically the journey that he's in, seems interesting. This is actually the first time that we actually get to see him and spend time with him, but I don't really know whether it's actually gonna be worth it at the end of the day, because as it has been proven in the past seasons, we'll be pressing the reset button soon enough, and even if Rick manages to destroy that specific Rick there, where does he go from there? Isn't that potential interesting to develop within a final season? I feel like Rick and Morty should have ended a long time ago, but every single season keeps like forgetting where it's going, and it remembers where it's supposed to go every like 3 episodes or so, and then we rush to the ending because, oh yeah, we're supposed to end this season, right, in some way, and create some kind of cliffhanger for the next one.
I mean, whatever you say, Rick. You know best. I trust you implicitly.
Is he all right?
Oh yeah, he's fine.
It's weird. It's weird that Dan Harmon spends so much time creating these complex structures when it comes to every single episode on its own, but he can't really create a link in between every single one of those episodes to create a really strong season that feels memorable and fresh. And I really feel like that's what he should focus on when it comes to the next few seasons. For the time being, I mean, I watched the first and the second episode and I'm not really hyped about the future. I'm gonna watch it just because it is like one of those mindfuck shows where you're never bored and you really have to pay attention to every single thing that is happening because there are so many different jokes being layered on top of each other. But at the same time, I know that my expectations are starting to get lower and lower just because he keeps repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Anyways, those are my thoughts when it comes to Rick and Morty season 5 and 6 and the future of the show itself. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the first 2 episodes and whether you feel the same as I do, or whether you have a completely different take on Rick and Morty as a show, not as a series of single really good episodes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every single like that you drop will go to Evil Morty because he had a really good plan. He had a really good monologue. And at the end of the day, I'm proud of him for finally getting rid of Rick, but without trying to kill him, just by removing himself from the narrative completely, which is something really mature, and I respect that. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
Rick and Morty forever and forever, 100 years. Rick and Morty things. Me and Rick and Morty and running around in Rick and Morty time. All day long, forever. All 100 days. Rick and Morty forever, 100 times.
Parmesan.
Parmesan.
Gross.
Yeah.
I hate it.